I've never worked in corporate, but I work with a lot of women who are in corporate, and I hear all kinds of stories all the time that I oftentimes I'm like, what? Like, really? Are you serious? And I think the thing that is, it's unclear to me because I've never walked that path. So the women that you work with, that they work to climb this ladder.
Yeah.
What do you think they're climbing towards? Like, what is that destination?
It's a really good question. There's kind of the realistic, like the way that it's represented is like higher title, more scope, more responsibility, a perceived autonomy that you get when you arrive at this level where then I'll have the power to do this, or then I'll be able to do this. Like kind of there's the actual up, and then there's the thing that you make the up mean.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the meaning tied to upward is not having to deal with the things that I'm dealing with because I have more power and more autonomy and more stability, more sense of like, I've arrived, all of this has been for something. Like, I think that's the dream of the top, essentially.
Right. And then they get there and they realize, oh, it's just different problems, maybe more complex problems, more stuff to solve, more people to manage, more time probably spent in the job as well.
And I think earlier we talked about that rule, everything is my responsibility. The need to expire some of those rules grows increasingly as you actually get into higher levels of your career. Like you cannot be a CEO taking responsibility for everything.
Right.
So there's like this kind of illusion that once I get there, then I won't take responsibility for everything. And there's actually this opportunity to play with putting down responsibility now. So that you build that skill and comfort with that skill. So when you are the CEO, if that's what you want, like you've already broken through that, because that is literally not going to work when you're at that. Women we work with know a CEO who is taking on responsibility and how that feels when you're not the CEO. And it's like, you get to play with that now if you want to.
Yeah, that's so interesting to flip it like that. So cool.
Yeah.
So the women I work with, we talk a lot about confidence. This is generally kind of our continual conversation. Oh, how do I find more confidence? How do I show up with more confidence? And you've always appeared and felt like a very confident person. What's been your journey with confidence through your career?
I think confidence is such a necessary and juicy topic. One of the things that feels really important for me is I feel like we put a lot of desire to have confidence to do the specific thing. And confidence for me is actually about building trust to navigate whatever. So it's kind of like independent of a specific action and independent of a specific outcome. It's actually trusting that whatever comes, I can handle it.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I talk about it too. I use the metaphor of going on a hike without a map and without a compass, and just kind of like, okay, like, do you trust yourself to get down the mountain? Then great. If you don't, then maybe you need to build some tools or bring some tools along with you. Yeah.
I think for me too, like a lot of female perfectionism, which is again a patriarchal idea, is baked into this idea of confidence. I see a lot of women vocalize that they are not confident because they don't have one of 100 things they need. And that becomes, okay, well, I'm not confident. And confidence and not having done it get collapsed.
Yeah.
And those are not the same thing.
Right.
So it feels really important to kind of create a dialogue around what parts of this are you confident about? Okay, so you've never spoken to this audience in this way around this thing. What have you done?
Yeah. I hear that a lot when women say, oh, well, I want to have more confidence in meetings. And then we start talking about it and they say, oh, well, if I've had time to prepare, then I feel confident. And it's kind of like, yeah, but like, you know, your stuff, you don't need to have a script per se. That's when the magic happens. And when you actually appear more confident is when you don't have a script and you're just working from this internal knowledge base and riffing a little bit.
Yeah.
If we're talking about speaking skills. Yeah.
Well, there's that tension of, well, if I just say it perfectly, or if I just package it perfectly, like confidence comes from like the perfect representation of it. And I think actually confidence comes from trusting that the dialogue can continue, trusting that it doesn't need to be perfect on the first go, trusting that like you can navigate the next step of it. It's actually not about the perfect first delivery. It's about, can I hold what comes up, and can I hold myself in what comes up? And that's a really different.
Yeah, totally. And I think this also goes back to the idea of, oh, I am taking responsibility for everything. Well, in any communication, it is a two-way street, right? You're not holding the responsibility for the whole conversation. You're speaking to another person or an audience, and it should be designed as a ping pong game, so it's not boring for anyone.
Right.
And that's the biggest mistake I see with women in a communication skills aspect, is that they think that they have to perform in a perfect way, that if they've rehearsed enough, they can be confident on that stage or whatever microphone that they have. But actually, the confidence comes from allowing the audience to speak or allowing the other person to answer a question and then fielding that and doing that dance.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.